Cruising Boxing Time. Welcome back. Another week after a giant fight. It's good to be back with all you guys talking about it. Noticeably absent is Matty Bush. He's not feeling well. Get better soon there, buddy. Make sure you drink all your liquids and all that stuff. Boys, it felt a lot like summer. Got to watch a big fight outdoors on the judge's garage wall. Have some tasty beers and some tasty food. Thank you, James, for that. And it felt great. So it's good to be back with you guys on the show to talk about it. With me, as always, Filthy Rich. Filthy Rich, what's happening?
Yeah, I got some more stats again for NBA playoff history. LeBron James has led his team in points, rebounds, and assists 75 times. That is more than Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Duncan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan combined. I will drink to that.
Wow. A few days after one of the biggest boxing news events of all time, since the start of this show at least, you still find a way to talk about LeBron first. Unbelievable. And with me, as always, is the one that hosted all of us and has all my Tecate there, and all the Tecate that all our fans brought to the show, or brought to the fight, is Judge Jimmy James. Judge.
Somebody else has that Tecate now, and it's Oscar the Grouch, because it's in the garbage. So, but either way, doing well. Excited for at least one more Minnesota sports team. So hopefully they don't blow it. But other than that, we got big news to talk about. So let's get it on.
Well, one quick question, James. What do you think is going to last longer, this show or our darts game we played before the Canelo fight?
Probably the darts game if we didn't call it. So
for those of you not knowing what we're talking about, an inside joke, we played darts on the side of James's garage there, and the wind was a little tough. That's what I'm gonna say. The wind was tough, but it was a good hour and a half before we just said forget it.
Oh wow, I think it was longer than that.
It might have been longer than that.
It was at least 50 rounds or something like that.
Over 50 rounds. One of the worst exhibitions of of darts I have ever been part of, and probably will ever see in my life. But that's neither here or there, because it's Canelo time. It's time to talk about Canelo. But before we do that, it's time to open up your beers, gentlemen, because we have a lot of things to talk about. Filthy Rich, looked like you already had a beer open. I did too, but I will open up a new one just for this. So, gentlemen, cheers. Score.
Cheers.
Yeah, I'm double fisting it.
Hey.
All right, let's go on with the show. Bruiser reviews time. Only one thing to talk about. It's what everyone in the nation is talking about from boxing fans. Canelo suffers his first loss since Triple G in my mind, but officially since Mayweather. Moving up to fight Bivol. Let's break it down here first. James, you're going to break it down for everybody here, and then we'll talk about what's next. And then there's so many talking points to talk about this fight. So much fun discussion. We'll just kind of banter and brawl it like we were sitting in the backyard afterwards, except our blood alcohol levels a little lower than it is that night. So, yes. Judge, why don't you start breaking it down first for those that somehow missed this fight? I don't know how you missed this fight, but if you did, Judge is going to break it down.
Well, it was Mother's Day weekend, so hopefully everybody got to, hang out with their mom, say I love you, all that fun stuff. So I can definitely see if you missed it, but either way, this was.
Don't give Matty Bush an excuse. That's bull.
I'm not giving Matty everybody, man. I don't care about Matty Bush. Everybody.
Who?
Everybody.
Yeah, who?
All right.
What are you talking about?
So this thing obviously was an awesome fight. This was it lived up to what I thought it was going to be. And it started off a little bit slow for the most part. I think the first round was kind of feeler, but it was weird because Canelo came out as a little bit slower fighter. Bivol actually was a lot faster, a lot more aggressive, and throwing his jab at a much bigger pace than I was anticipating, because his last couple of fights, definitely he looked lackluster and subpar. Like when he started this in the first 2 rounds, at least, it started getting me excited, because I thought this was the Bivol that I remember like 5 years ago that I was getting excited about in the first place.
Those speed combos.
It was good. And So he started coming up, the first couple of rounds, Canelo was active. I think it took him until about halfway through the second before he actually started throwing some combinations himself. Uh, Nothing really too crazy. Both fighters were pretty pinpoint with what they were doing. Obviously, Bivol was more. I guess to be honest, I think he was more technical. He was more of the 1-2, the 1-2 punch, like the jab hook, the jab to the body, and then the jab to the face. Like it just seemed like he had that game plan walking into this, and Canelo was just trying to do what he always does, right? Like just wait for his opening and counter. And it started going through the first 4 rounds. Seemed, I guess, for my opinion, it was pretty even in the first 4 rounds. However, once it started getting to those middle rounds, like the shots that Bivol was throwing were multiple combinations. He would throw 6, 7, 8 punch combinations, and maybe 3 or 4 of those were hitting, but they were still hitting. While Canelo, when he was throwing his punches, they were just hitting his arms. Bivol had a high guard up, hitting his left, right arm. He did have a couple of decent body shots, but even then, he was still hitting elbows. He hit his most effective punch was the uppercut by far, Canelo, and he did not throw it enough. But that definitely was breaking through Bivol's guard, and Bivol definitely should have came back and threw some uppercuts himself. With
You were
Canelo
begging him to throw more uppercuts, though.
Yeah, yeah, because Canelo was definitely leaning forward, face first. Once it hit like the 7th round, Canelo did look like he was kind of gassed out a little bit. He looked like he was starting to lag. There was a couple of times where he kind of went up against the ropes and was taunting Bivol to come in, and then Bivol on at least one occasion was like, why don't you come to me? Why don't you come here? And I thought that was kind of funny because Bivol stayed disciplined and he didn't come off his guard. He didn't let Canelo, end the spectacle of T-Mobile Arena affect him at all. Really, I think it actually elevated his game, and he went through the rest of the fight, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round. In my opinion, he looked just like the better fighter. He was landing more punches. Canelo there was shots that he was rolling like he always does, rolls off the shoulder, rolls off the face, but in the end it was Bivol victorious by unanimous decision. We will talk
about
later about this, because the decision by all four judges, by all 3 judges, was 115-113 for Bivol. And I did not have it.
Cards too.
Did not have it like that at all. I had it 9-3 for Bivol, 8-4 for Bivol at the worst. But we'll talk about that later. But that was pretty much the gist of the fight. It was a nonstop fight. Bivol came to play, and man, it's exciting to see him still at that level. And unfortunate that Canelo kind of hit that wall.
Well, I want to put the I'm going to throw a little curveball at you guys here. I want to go what's next for Bivol and Canelo at the end here, Rich. I want to kind of talk more about the fight here. We'll kind of end with what's next with those guys. But you brought up a great point about the judging. I want to start with that because we've always talked about, and everyone has talked about, that Canelo seems to have very favorable judges that seem to be following him around all the time. And when that fight ended, Canelo ran to the corner and jumped up and act like he won and stuff like that. And as we're all sitting outside, I looked at each other. I looked at you guys. I said, I smell a rat coming here. I smell at least a draw or something coming up. It's not right. You know how this ends. It always ends funny like this. And you guys you have to admit, too, when they said 115, 113 across the board, you guys all probably thought, too, the same I did. They gave this to Canelo, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you. There's no way. And I couldn't. When they said it was unanimous for Bivol, that's great. But I hate that comment of, well, at least the right guy won. No, that's wrong. That's bull. Because when we looked at the cards, remember we waited to look for a while to find the official cards. All 3 judges had the exact same cards, and all 3 judges had Canelo winning the first 4 rounds. How does that happen? That can't happen. Not only that, they had Canelo winning the fight after 9. Which means Bivol had to win the last 3 rounds to win. Yeah, that is ridiculous. And that is just gross. I wanted to get your guys' comments on that. Filthy Rich, I'll start with you.
Well, I think with judging and even doing predictions on the show, this is why it's so hard to predict. I think you two had Canelo by decision. Now, you probably thought that that's what the judges were going to do. Now, would you have selected that before? Probably not. Like the Bivol we all remember, yeah, Bivol should have whooped him up. Bivol had to win. He had to be perfect.
Yeah, he really
and
did.
he was, and he still won by like 1 round or 2 rounds. However you want to slice it here. And I don't like that. Hey, at least they got it right. Nothing's ever done about this stuff. We've talked about how we improve judging. I say make it 5 judges, throw out 2 bad cards, or I don't know what to do. But yeah, it was Canelo won the first 4 rounds. I didn't see it that way either. I'm glad you touched on all 3 judges had the exact same scorecards round for round. So
yeah. It's like they're all talking to each other and like all writing down the same thing. It was ridiculous. And not only that, nobody in America had Canelo. Nobody watching that fight had Canelo winning the first 4 rounds. There's nobody that had that. You're going to have 3 experts sitting next to each other, all suddenly having 4-0 cards for Canelo when nobody in their right mind could possibly see that. I mean, that was ridiculous. Judge, I'm going to let you comment on that since you are a judge. What happened with your brethren here? I mean, what's with these judges?
I don't know. I don't know what they were watching. I don't know what fight they were watching. It definitely, Canelo has an argument that it was kind of what I touched on before. Like a lot of these punches that I was shoulder rolling and rolling with, and they weren't actually landing and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, well, yeah, but when you throw 8-punch combos, you just need like 2 or 3 punches to land. That's it. You know, when you're only throwing 2-punch combos and you're hitting gloves and then the arm, those aren't scoring blows, man. And this ain't the amateurs. This is the pros. And you are a professional, the best pound for pound boxer at the, like, no, don't give excuses. But I have no idea, man. Like it's interesting. It really makes you want to take a big look at what can we do? Like we talked about this a long show ago, removing these guys from ringside, putting them up like in a sportscaster booth. They cannot react to the sounds of the crowd. They're just watching the fight, just like anybody else would, and see if these scores change at that point.
I swear the 3 ladies in the front row there that were on their phones didn't even have Canelo winning 4 rounds in a row. I mean, that is ridiculous. How did that? It's inexcusable that after that they still had Canelo winning after 9. That's inexcusable. That's not right. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And Canelo even said he thinks he won the fight. He thinks that Bivol only won 4 rounds. What is that? Is he going? It's gross to me. It was very gross. But speaking of not doing damage, the only damage that Bivol really took was on his arm, and he said that in the post-fight interview too. He said, "Did he ever hurt you?" He goes, "Yeah, my arm hurts." You don't score by hitting him in the arm constantly. Canelo was taking shots in the head, in the face. He was puffed up, and not only that, it felt like you said it looked like he was gassed. I think it looked like he was frustrated, like he gave up. Like there was like I can't run with this guy. This guy's too good for me. I can't do anything. He's too big. I can't keep him off me. I can't counter punch him. Bivol turned into the counter puncher. You know, he would counter punch combos. It was amazing. It was amazing to watch. I want to know. I'm going to throw it back to you, Rich. Was there anything else that kind of jumped out at you like that? I love these combos that Bivol would just connect with, these 6 combos in a row, and Canelo just sat in the corners most of the time or on the ropes a lot of the time. He looked gassed or just frustrated and giving up in the corner. He did not look like the Canelo we've ever seen. What do you some more comments from you?
Shoot, that was long. Well, let me say this.
I had a lot to say. Sorry.
I know James gives Anthony Joshua a hard time for not having a plan B. I don't think Canelo had a plan B. I think Canelo had a game plan, stuck with it the entire time, and it wasn't working. He continued to stick with it. On the other hand, Bivol had a game plan, and he didn't need to do a plan B. He was dominating the entire fight. Those multiple punch combos. I don't think Canelo saw that coming. I didn't see that coming. There's no way to game plan for, hey, what do you do when the guy hits you 5 or 6 times in a row? back up and take a deep breath and then get hit a bunch more. Dimitri Bivol was on his A game. There's no knock on Canelo because Canelo did move up to take this fight. This was not going to be an easy fight. And people talking underdog stuff. Well, Bivol is the underdog. That's just Vegas trying to make the money line a 50-50 money line. There was no reason for Bivol to be the underdog. Personally, I thought it was a 50-50 fight, and Bivol dominated that 50-50 fight.
Yeah, start to finish. I felt like he went coast to coast, and it's hard to beat a dead horse, but he still had to win the last 3 rounds to win this fight. That's ridiculous. He should have been able to coast out. What if he, I don't know. James, I want more comments from you about other things that you spotted that we may not have touched on yet.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we feel like we just talked about a lot of stuff here.
You could talk about it for an hour and a half. But we could play a game of darts and it may not end in time.
That's fair. I mean, look, Canelo did look, you touched on this a little bit, Rich. He looked frustrated. I mean, maybe that was it. Maybe he wasn't gassed. He was just like, this was my plan. It's not working. Like, he did do the same thing against, I want to say it's Callum Smith, where he dislocated his bicep, right? That's what it almost seemed like that's what he was trying to do against Bivol. I think he just came up to a natural 175. And this guy, he had to rehydrate at least 10 pounds, right? Give him the benefit, 185-pound Bivol for a 175 Alvarez, because he couldn't have ballooned up that much more. But taller fighter, bigger fighter, like, he gave it a good run, and I give him props for going for greatness, 100%. But I think you extended yourself too much, right? And that's just reality. But I don't know. He definitely did looked up, and I don't know, man. That's Reynoso's camp. That's like a lot of his fighters just keep losing after those 2 left and 2 more losses. What's going on, Eddie? Trainer of the year 2021. Looks like you're going to be on the bottom in 2022.
I also want to touch on this too, because we touched on how terrible the judging was. I thought the refereeing was terrible too. I felt like they were just looking for any reason to take a point away from Bivol too. Like, Canelo tries to suplex Bivol and no problem, but they're going to yell at Bivol every time Canelo puts his head down and Bivol touches him in the back of the hair or whatever, messing up his hair. It was like they kept breaking him up, then yelling at Bivol again. Bivol's just not doing anything but hurting it. Canelo's ducking his head. He tries to suplex him a la WWF style. No big deal. Let's just break it up again. I felt like the roughing, they were just begging to find something to take a point away from. And if you take a point, what happens? He had to win the last 3. So you don't agree with that, James? You didn't think the refereeing was bad? You don't remember that? Because I remember you saying he's not doing anything. Why you keep yelling at Bivol?
Well, yeah, I'm saying he's yelling at him. It doesn't mean I think it's bad refereeing for me personally. I mean, I don't know. What does he think?
I don't think he ever yelled at Canelo, but what do you think, Filthy Rich?
Look, I think the ref's job is to basically stay out of the way. And I think the ref stayed out of the way as best he could. I don't remember the ref being a distraction. Part of me doesn't even remember who the ref was. It was probably Russell Mora, but I think at the end of the day, you're not supposed to remember who the ref was. And Russell Mora is a good ref. I don't recall anything out of the ordinary. I thought he did a fair job. Thought he did fine. I don't think you can improve on what he did.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I just see that it seems like Canelo, you have to do so much to beat Canelo. I mean, 115, 113, just it's ridiculous. It's sticking to my craw. Really
if a point was taken away, that would have been ridiculous. He was, he had some warnings. Canelo was also putting his head down the whole time too. So it's
right.
You gotta, come on. Like, you kept watch the heads, fellas. Like, but you say to both people, not just, oh, hey, Russian guy.
They kept yelling at him. Head. That's my point. It's like, I don't know. It felt like they were just trying to get any possibility of helping him out in any which way.
You know what? Just bringing up the word Russian. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe the Russian is the bad guy. According to the rest of the world, the Russians are the bad guy. Maybe we got to do something to stop the Russian. But It didn't happen, man. That Russian was on fire.
It was
Canelo
interesting that they didn't sing the Russian national anthem. That was a little interesting.
Apparently they announced them from California too.
Yeah.
Did they?
Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Yeah. I don't know. Canelo just should have trained more in the woods and in the snow. It's just not, it's too warm.
He didn't
he
have
should've
the
climbed
eye of
mountain
the
and
tiger.
screamed Bivol at the top of the mountain. Bivol!
Yeah. He missed the eye of the tiger.
So I don't know. Hey, Canelo says this loss doesn't compare to the Mayweather defeat. I don't know why he goes back to the Mayweather defeat. I think he lost Triple G and Lara. But do you guys agree this doesn't compare? Do you? I mean, it feels like forever ago when he fought Mayweather. Do you agree with Canelo that this doesn't compare to the Mayweather defeat? Filthy Rich, will start with you. You're kind of the historian.
Nice. I don't know. I guess
compliment.
I don't know what he means by it doesn't compare, because like I don't think it does either. This is two guys probably in their prime fighting, where before it was, I don't know, maybe it was definitely a pre-prime Canelo dropping weight to fight Mayweather for a big money fight, but it doesn't compare in the sense that this is probably a better fight. It was more evenly matched. There's a lot of components in this fight versus the Mayweather fight. I don't know why he would bring up the Mayweather fight. Somebody must have been egging him on, but this was,
well, they asked because he said that Mayweather did beat him. He's basically comparing it. He's still
His
sticking with that
only
he won this
loss.
fight. Yeah, that he won this fight. Canelo's saying it doesn't compare. That's what Canelo's saying. I don't feel that way. I won this fight. I didn't win the Mayweather fight.
Well, maybe he needs to watch it back. I know it was Cinco de Mayo and all that good stuff, but like it looked like the entire world had it 9-3, except for him and 3 judges.
As I said, I agree with Judge. It could be 8-4. I could see 8-4, but 9-3 is closer. And at 9-3, that still means he lost one of the first 4 rounds. So I can't fathom that. I hate it. One last thing I want to touch on too. Knowing, even though that Canelo was up on the scorecards after 9, it seemed like he was not very urgent. Like he felt like he was almost ahead in them last 3 rounds. Do you think he ran out of gas, or do you think he really honestly thought he was just going to win and he just had to stay the course for them last 3 rounds? Because we all felt like you got to do something here because you're not going to win. You got to almost have to get the knockout here in the last 2 rounds. Do you think he should have showed more urgency? Judge, we'll start with you.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think that's a big problem, man. When these fighters think that they're ahead and they can just, I'm just going to coast at a certain point. Like if it's close at all, your corner, your corner should be telling you, dude, this is close. You need to step it up. Mm-hmm. And if you can't acknowledge that and to begin with, then I don't know, man. Like that's, that could just be another excuse. It could be using the excuses for being too tired and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, he definitely needed to step it up. You think it would have been a little bit different of a fight if he was actually, trying to press a little bit more. But
yeah, that 12th round, it felt like he didn't do anything. It didn't even feel like he was going for the knockout in the 12th round. And Bivol seemed to have the gas on the whole time. I think Bivol took 1 round off. I think he took, it was the 9th round. I think he kind of took off, but he left the gas on the whole fight. He was still laying shots and then win the 12th. He wasn't staying away from him. Filthy Rich, what do you think? Did Canelo was it a coaching error in the corner that he didn't get going, or do you think he was just too gassed to make an urgent run?
Well, I feel like if he thought he was winning on the scorecard, that's kind of when you go in for the kill. Like, I think Canelo wanted to knock this dude out. To me, he ran out of gas. So I can't imagine why he thinks he won this fight. If you thought you won the fight by, 8, 9, 10, 11, you'd probably step on the gas to go in for the knockout. But he did not do that. What'd you say? Bivol won like the last 3 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Canelo
he had to win the last 3 rounds to win the fight on the card.
And he won just about every single one of them rounds. I don't understand. I don't know where Canelo's coming from on this one. I mean, I've talked before. Canelo loses a lot of rounds in these fights. Saunders was probably up on the cards before his eye broke. I don't even know who else. I mean, Callum Smith. I don't remember the Callum Smith fight too well, but yeah. Canelo seems to just like the earmuff defense and come hit me and I will counter And this was off the game plan because I don't think the counters were effective on Bivol. Bivol just a bigger dude, and it just doesn't hurt him. He was missing with a lot of the counters, and Bivol was countering with combos. And I've never seen Canelo taken to school like that before. Maybe Mayweather, but this is different. Pre-prime Canelo versus this Canelo. Bivol took him to school. He learned a lesson.
He hurt him. He hurt him. Canelo was hurt. Those shots hurt. I felt like they hurt him bad. Like he didn't want to sit there and tangle with him. But anyway, we kind of talked a lot about this. I put it off on the back burner here. We're kind of have to move around a little bit. But Filthy Rich, what's next for both of these guys? Bivol's talked about that he'll go down to 168 to fight Canelo on a rematch because I think he wants all the belts. Basically, he's like, if we're going to do it again, give me your belts. But what's next for him? Is Canelo going to get the rematch? Is he going to go to Triple G? What's next for Bivol? You tell me. Everyone wants to know. You know the answers.
Canelo wants to activate his rematch clause. Even Bivol apologized to Eddie Hearn for ruining the Golovkin trilogy. So the real answer, to cut it all short and sweet, that's the real answer. That's not the answer I'm going to give you. The answer I'm going to give you for what's next for Canelo, get in the ring with Benavidez, because Benavidez is already at 168, and he's going to do the same stuff that Bivol did to you. So this is a precursor to a Bivol 2 fight, if you want to have it again next year in Cinco de Mayo. But I would say Canelo should go after David Benavidez, who's just a smaller version of Bivol. I think that would make for a good fight at 168. Obviously, Charlo is a big talker. I don't know if Charlo really wants this fight. He does a lot of talking. He's talking a lot to Benavidez, but he's at 160. I don't know if he's willing to move to 168, even though he's posting pictures that he's there. I don't know. Andre just got hurt. Maybe I don't want to call anyone faking an injury, but he called Canelo. Maybe Canelo just needs to beat someone up to get his confidence back and, get the F out of here, says Canelo. Canelo, just go out there and just beat someone up for on a good weekend. Just remind us what you're made of. Go out there and just beat up Andre. For Bivol, I think what's next is it's not even the winner between Beterbiev and Joe Smith. It's Beterbiev, because Beterbiev comes off a loss. That's the perfect time to beat him. Beterbiev comes off a win. And that's probably the bigger money fight. Beterbiev beating Joe Smith. If that happens, that is the big fight at light heavyweight right now. Zurdo Ramirez has a fight coming up. Zurdo Ramirez reminds me of Bivol with their combos and their height and just their reach and just the way they look in the ring. I think that would make for a good fight. I wouldn't call this a tune-up fight, but Maxime Vlasov gave Joe Smith problems not too long ago. I don't think he's got a fair shake in the light heavyweight division. I'd like to see him step in the ring with Bivol. I think those are 6 names, 3 for each fighter that I would go next. But again, it's supposed to be Canelo versus Bivol in a rematch, probably Mexican Independence weekend.
Well, quick follows up before we move on here on that. First question: does Canelo ever fight at 175 again, or you think he moves down and stays there at 168?
You think, James?
I said both of you,
yeah. I think he stays at once. I don't think he fights at 175 again. I think he stays at 168. If he was smart, he would stay at 168. He tried to get it. He had a belt against Kovalev 175. He tried to do it against Bivol because he thought it was blah blah blah. Didn't work. I would go back to 168. You dominate there, and that's where you end your career. He's already talked about retirement at one point. That's where you end your career, man. Dominate at 168, go off on a high note, and that's what you got to do.
That's what I say. I say stay at 168. I don't think he belongs at 175.
So you both think he'll never fight a 175 fight again? He's going to move back down to 168. What are you saying?
I mean, even throwing Vlasov out there for Bivol, I think Canelo could beat Vlasov maybe. I mean, Vlasov's old. He's like, 35, 36 years old?
There's no reason for it. There's no belts there.
Right. Who cares about the belts? But moving up a division is important. I think you can beat Vlasov. I think Vlasov's still pretty good. I'm not saying he's young, but in a couple years, you could probably beat Vlasov. But right now, in the immediate future, 175 is not for Canelo.
All right. Second question. And then we have one more about that. You said Benavidez, and you're next. We all were talking when we were watching that fight. I don't think he beats Benavidez at this point. You really think that's a good idea for him to go to Benavidez? If he loses 2 in a row, I mean, that legacy is really going to take a hurt. And I think from what we all saw, I think we were talking. We may have been pretty drunk, but I think we all agreed at the time that Benavidez schools this version of Canelo. You guys agree or not?
I mean, I think it's a 50-50 fight. I think it's a very, very good fight. It's a fight people want to see. I think it's a fight both guys probably want. I know Benavidez talks a lot, but I really think he wants this stuff. I think Canelo wants to prove his greatness. And if the fans, because I guess Canelo's he sits on Twitter all day and he gets affected by the comments he reads. If people want to see Canelo versus Benavidez, and he is reading about it, I think he will get in the ring to make the fans happy. So I think it's a 50-50 fight. I think Benavidez wins, but I still think it makes for a good fight.
I don't know. James, Benavidez win?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna agree with Rich.
I'll drink to that. Thank you.
I knew that was coming.
I'll drink to
I think
that too.
I think it's a 50-50, man. It's going to be the fight he has to take, or not. What doesn't have to take, but one of his next two fights is going to have to be that, in my opinion. He's just going to have to, and I don't think. Oh man, Bivol. I think it's a poor choice if Bivol tries to move down to 168 to fight Canelo, because obviously we know when you weight drain, that's worse than moving up. So I don't know. He says he can make it, but I think it's a poor choice. Bivol, stay at 175. If anything, move up at this point, but just stay at 175.
All right, this segment's obviously running along, so I'm just going to ask this last question as a yes or no question. Is the Triple G fight off for Mexican Independence Day? Yes or no, Filthy Rich?
Yes.
Judge?
Mexican Independence Day 2022.
Yeah.
Yes, it's off. 2023, we'll reopen that.
I don't think Triple G can fight in 2023.
No, I think it's off. With this loss, I think it's off.
It's off.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. You've heard it. That's our Canelo breakdown. We ran a little longer than we intended, but hey, it was one of the biggest stories of boxing in the last few years. It deserved a little extra time. So put in your comments below. What do you think? What do you think of the fight? What do you think of our experts' opinions here? And we'll go ahead and move on with the show. We still got some news and some previews to go left on this show. So let's go ahead and move on with it. All right, Bruce, news time. Hey, we took that off last week. It feels like we haven't done news in a long time here. And then we had Canelo, so then they had to go first. So this is the first time that news actually been second on our show. So we have more firsts going on here. But not a lot of things to talk about. But there's one big thing we got to talk about. James, you need to cue the music right now, because we're talking about the sexiest man in all of boxing. That's right, Rich. You start dancing. Ryan Garcia has been ordered by the WBC to fight Isaac Cruz at the 135 for a title eliminator. This one has me worried about his pretty face. So, Rich, I'm going to throw it up to you. Isaac Cruz looks really, really good, and I'm really worried about this fight that we may have to find a new pretty person to play that song for. What do you think about this WBC fight for Garcia and Cruz with Haney probably waiting for the winner?
Well, I mean, Haney has to fight Kambosos, so and there's a rematch clause in that fight, so we're not going to rush there yet. But
sure.
I'll be honest, man. I think it's a mismatch. I think Cruz whoops him. I don't think it's close. I think Cruz whoops him, man. I'm glad.
I really do too.
I don't even like, and you know how I am with the governing bodies. I hate these governing bodies. I hate like the WBC and like these guys. Did they get it right? They probably did get it right, man. But like, it's still a mismatch. I don't know. I think Cruz whoops him. I know we're not doing predictions here, but I guess the underlying story, the headline of the story is that the WBC got something right. Let's leave it at that and drink to that.
Yeah. I mean, the only governing body that's worth anything is the BAB, the Bruising Boxing governing body. If we ran it all, we'd have the greatest fights around. We'd have the title eliminators. It'd be great. And for some reason, LeBron would be at every fight. I don't know why he'd be there, but he'd be at every fight. What do you think, Judge? Are you a little worried for our guy, Ryan Garcia, getting his face messed up a little bit against Isaac Cruz? Because I'm worried about it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, this is the bit. So Ryan Garcia's last fight, it was the first fight back after he fought Luke Campbell and he got knocked down in that fight, right? Then he took some mental health and then he got a bunch of tats. Whatever, man. Kind of going crazy. He didn't look that great against To Go. And if he comes in flat-footed like that, I mean, he's standing there, man. Cruz is not, he's going to throw, and he's going to throw. So this isn't good for Ryan Garcia. However, it's great for boxing because if Garcia wants to get back on that pedestal, this is a fight that he needs to take and he needs to move forward with it. The only problem with this is this like the third time the WBC has not forced, but
Ordered it.
Mandatory challenger. He's only done it once. So the other three were Luke Campbell, Jojo Diaz, and Javier Fortuna. He only fought Luke Campbell and he got knocked down, but he still won the fight, but still. And I mean, I don't know, man. Hopefully it happens, but definitely dangerous. And man, Garcia better talk to Joe Goosen and be like, oh my God, you really got to train me hard because this is going to be tough. Because if he doesn't and takes this lightly, he is going to get rocked.
Well, to be fair, who would want to fight your guy, Jojo Diaz, anyway?
That's not my guy. No one likes Jojo Diaz.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on here. A little sad news, but I'm actually kind of happy for him too because I worry about him. Kell Brook announced his retirement from boxing. Very, very tough individual, one of the toughest SOBs to ever step in the ring. Got both his eye sockets broken in big fights and was in both those big fights against Triple G and help me out here, Spence. Thank you. And he said it's over for him. He'll never box again. It seems like he just wanted to beat up on Amir Khan, and he did that. I'm happy to see that he's going to leave with his health and everything like that. He's got the bionic face now. But your favorite Kell Brooks moments? We'll start with you, Judge.
Favorite moments?
Or favorite moments, or any comments about the thing? But favorite Kell Brooks.
I'm glad. To be honest, it's a good time, right? You're going out on top. You're 36. Like, you made a bunch of money against Amir Khan. You finally had that fight, right? And go out on top, man. There's no point. You had a good career and a long career. There's no point in going further if you don't see the value in it. And especially if your family health is super important. Like, there's more to life than boxing. Best of luck to you, man. Not Filthy Rich's world, but I mean, best of luck to you, man. I mean, I still think I still enjoyed his fights that he had against Triple G and Terrence Crawford and even Amir Khan. I thought, these were fun fights to watch. He's an action fighter. He gets in there and goes around. So I don't know, man. I wish him nothing but the best. 100%.
I bet you there's still money for him to be made too in the announcing. I'm sure, if Sean Porter and those guys can announce boxing, Kell Brook can announce boxing too. He'll probably dress better. I don't know. But Filthy Rich, your favorite Kell Brook moments and anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah, he beat Sean Porter, I believe, for one of those alphabet titles in 2013. I know he had someone like Jojo Don was on his someone he beat. He didn't look. Is he going to be a Hall of Famer? Is the question we need to ask. And I think it's tough to say.
Borderline.
Well, for now, we don't know who else is retiring this year. So if it was just this year, is he top of the class? Yeah, he's probably top of the class. But he's also going to be competing with other guys who did not get in. He has 3 losses that against 3 pound-for-pound kings, Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, and Golovkin, when no one was fighting. Canelo wouldn't even fight Golovkin. Kell Brook stepped in there. His 3 losses, there's nothing to be ashamed about. Raider Live hit it where he says there's a career after boxing in the booth. I think he'd make a good guy in the booth. So, look, I don't know if he's first ballot, but at some point you got to put Kell Brook in there, man, because those orbital bones probably took years off of his life. Errol Spence is one thing, but Golovkin, he shatters it against Golovkin. If that fight doesn't take place, who knows? Maybe he still fights. We don't know, but great career, man. I will drink to Kell Brook.
Didn't Kell Brook move up for that Triple G fight too?
I think it was 2 weight classes.
He moved up 2 weight classes. And not only that, he gave Triple G quite the scare in that fight too. I mean, he winning on the cards, I think, before his eyes shattered too. I mean, so if you want to talk Hall of Fame credentials, I mean, that he's put a scare in every one of them losses that he was in.
Teddy Atlas had Kell Brook up 5-0 in that fight. I had it about 4-1, but he's landing the punches, but apparently they just weren't effective because in Triple G's corner, he's just like, well, it doesn't hurt. But that's what happens when you're coming up 2 weight classes. The power just isn't there, and you could dance around all you want. But when Golovkin, the monster, hits you, man, at some point it's going to end, but there's that anyways.
Before we do the final drink, Judge, you said kind of you were kind of off on the Hall of Fame thing. Do you want to second guess that, thinking about it a little more, or do you are you kind of still sticking with that?
I mean, I think he's going to be a Hall of Fame in like the UK eyes for sure. But I mean, I guess the more you think about it, the 3 losses, I think you would have a case. It would definitely. I think for me, it would depend on who's going up there against. If it's a list like it was last year, he ain't making it in. But every year is different, so it's possible. I won't put it away.
Not only that, he always seemed like he was. I always seemed like he never had any like really bad press or anything like that. It always seemed like he was kind of like a good guy. I never really heard any bad things about him. You guys ever hear anything? I think I can remember. But
he's from Sheffield. Maybe you don't know your Sheffield history like Matty Bush.
Well, not all of us can be right all the time like Matty Bush, apparently. So it is what it is. All right. Well, for Brews and Boxing, Kell, Brook, we'll drink to you. Cheers, brother. Enjoy your retirement. Stay safe and get in the booth. Get in the booth. We'll be good to go.
Yeah, see how you go against Tony Bellew.
He's got to do better than Oscar De La Hoya in the booth. I'll tell you that.
Oh, God, yeah.
All right, last thing we're going to talk about here in news. Chris Eubank Jr. says he's going to call the Golovkin camp and see if that fight is possible with you guys both saying that Golovkin-Canelo fight's probably off. Do you think this is the right idea for Golovkin to even talk to Eubank? Or I kind of feel like Golovkin should probably go to Charlo if he's not going to fight Canelo, get that money before it's all said and done. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Filthy Rich, we'll start with you.
Well, it wasn't Golovkin talking to it was Eubank called.
No, I said Eubank called. Should Golovkin ignore Eubank and call Charlo instead?
I don't know if that's what you said, but Eubank was the one. The Roy Jones clone. No, he's not a clone. I'm just kidding. Trained by Roy Jones. Chris Eubank Jr. After the Canelo fight was over, basically said, Golovkin, your fight with Canelo is now canceled. You should fight me. It wasn't like that. I don't know, but he's the one who initiated contact with Golovkin.
Right.
I mean, why not? Why not? I think everyone thinks Golovkin's washed, but I think Golovkin still cleans out 160, and he probably, a defeated Canelo at 160. I think he wouldn't move down to 160, but I think he beats everyone at 160. Clean this division out and blah, 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 blah. Take him. Why not? Take him. If no one wants to fight you, take him. Whoop him up and put him in his place. There's a lot of money in England. You can still make a lot of money going to someone else. This is the thing about world champions. They fight around the entire world. They don't just fight in Vegas. Wink, wink. You know who I'm talking about. They fight across the globe. Golovkin's coming from Japan. Now he can go over to Europe and England somewhere. He can go.
He's going Street Fighter 2 style on, is what you're saying.
Go fight everywhere, man. So yeah, take this fight. Take on all these guys, man. I'll drink to you, Golovkin, man. You're a first ballot Hall of Famer with no question.
Oh, no question about that. But I'm saying I think Golovkin should ignore the phone call from Chris Eubank Jr. and try to get the Charlo fight. If the Canelo fight's off, I think Charlo's the money. We've talked about on the show many times that Golovkin has a limited amount of fights left in him.
No,
the money fight is Charlo. The Charlo fight's the money fight.
Beat them both, man. He's not limited. He'll beat them both.
I know he beat them both. I think the more money's in the Charlo fight. Judge, you be the mediator. Break us up here. Oh, who's right?
I'm right.
I'm right.
Look, first of all, the Street Fighter 2 comment was pretty damn hilarious because I'm remembering going through the whole thing going, I got to fight Dalsim and Blanca and E Honda, and I'm going all over the world.
And you're in a little plane.
Golovkin's running all over the place. That's hilarious. I really,
old, man.
Whatever. I don't care. Second Genesis, baby. 16-bit.
Put that in editing, James. Put those things in editing.
I'm gonna try, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find that. But either way, we're talking about this. The Chris Eubank, Rich. I'm gonna tell you, man. It's the Chinese Roy Jones Jr. Man, it's the knockoff Roy Jones Jr. I don't believe it. I think Chinese knockoff is bad. You're using bad parts. But to your point, to the question, like what's gonna make more money? Charlo's got a WBC belt. Chris Eubank Jr. ain't got nothing.
Zero.
Golovkin is not really going to be a draw in England. He's going to be a draw here.
Absolutely. He was a.
Why
didn't he
would
fight
he?
Kell Brook? Didn't he fight Kell Brook in England?
I have no
I was-
idea.
yeah,
So he's already
That's a
fought
draw
there.
for
He already
Kell
won that in
Brook.
Street Fighter 2. Now he's got to go somewhere else and go fight in Jerry's world. You know, now he's moving to Texas.
Beat up all the Brits.
We don't need to beat the Brits.
We beat them in the Revolutionary War. We
That
beat
was like
them
200 years ago, Rich. Get over it.
Look, man, the
again.
Redcoats.
Golovkin's not with us, so anyways.
The Redcoats is a good beer, okay? But all I'm saying is we just Charlo is the bet. I want to see one of these Charlos is gonna have to get popped, and Jamal literally isn't fighting anyone. His next fight is what, against Verjak Sulici? Cool, man. That's like the third fight in a row where you're not fighting anybody. Fight Boo Boo or fight Mungi or fight somebody else.
Golovkin?
Charlo Golovkin.
Golovkin.
Charlo Golovkin. I'm gonna have to agree with Mayor Live. It's Charlo. Charlo is the next fight. If he can't make it with old Canelo, it's got to be Charlo.
Yes. Thank you. Hey,
It's
write
all
that
of
down.
them.
Hey, write that down.
Yeah, that James said you were right.
Yeah,
No,
he agreed with me.
Remember,
Write it down.
remember, James, I'm holding this against you. Next time I see you,
Man, it's recorded.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
Filthy Rich, you can be wrong once in a while. You're not perfect
gonna
like
be-
Matty Bush, okay?
I'm gonna be
Yeah,
drinking.
you're not
Like,
perfect.
hey, remember that time you agreed with Raider Live?
I know Judge is not feeling good about it, but
Hey, man.
he has to admit when he's right, when I'm right. once in a while.
We've agreed before Raider Live, and we've both been wrong before, so it happens. Don't worry about it.
I know that's caused your irritable bowel disease, I'm sure, whenever you agree with me.
Come back, Matty Bush.
All right, that's news for this week. That was a fun segment too. All right, we're doing good here. It's going old school, Matty Bush. So maybe you work on that cough and quit being right all the time. You know, maybe you can come back. I don't know. That's the news this week. We guys still got a little show left to go here. We got some previews coming up of some fun fights this week, including Real Filthy Rich. Spoiler alert, my guy coming up. All right, let's move on with the show. Brews and previews time, and we get to talk about one of my guys, Boots. As you can see by my background here, if you're listening to us on the podcast, Boots is my background. We're gonna do something a little different this time. I'm going to break down a fight because it's my guy Boots. My guy Boots is fighting something called Castano Clayton from the Great White North of Canada. I couldn't find too much about this thing. I found a picture of him late. There he is, right there. There's a picture of him right there. I don't know how good he is. But I'm a little worried about his head flopping off at some point from Boots hitting him. But, you know, them Canadians with the beady eyes and the floppy heads, it seems to be a little issue sometimes. I feel like Boots is going to do that. Boots is going to go in there. He's going to dance around with his fancy short shorts and all the tassels coming off his shorts. I say short shorts, but it's long shorts with all the tassels and all that stuff. He's going to beat this Canadian in submission. It's not even going to be funny. Boots, you need to fight somebody that's, decent that we can actually talk about and break this down. But that's all you need to know. I'm going to go Matty Bush style on it. Boots is going to just dominate this fight. We're going to go predictions real fast. Filthy Rich, predictions on Boots versus Scott the Dick. Go ahead.
Take Ennis, knockout in 5.
Ennis knockout 5. Judge.
Oh my God, unbelievable. I think this is going to be a little bit more difficult than people think.
Well, the guy is a giant dick. You got a radiation poisoning. It's hard to beat a giant dick.
Look, I think that Boots is still Boots. Still call him a Crawford clone for a reason. I think it's going to take him out in 9. I think it's still going to be a win. The guy is undefeated. He does have some knockouts. He did draw against Lipinier, but I think he is going to win. Boots will win by knockout in the 9th.
Obviously, mine is Boots knockout 1. Very short work. It's going to be undercard. It's going to be.
Just shut up, man. Can you mute him? Can someone mute Raider Live?
Hey, this is my breakdown, not you. I don't jump in on your breakdowns here. All right. And then the main event of this card after Boots knocks him out. Don't go to the bathroom. Boots will win in 1 round, so it will be quick. But anyway, Charlo versus Castano. James, you and me loved Castano in that first fight against Charlo. We both thought he won. Filthy Rich, I believe, thought Charlo won that fight. It was a very close fight. Very close fight indeed. Castano lost on the cards, gets his rematch in this big fight coming up this weekend. What does Castano got to do to win this time on the cards or wherever else?
I don't think he needs to change anything. I think he needs to be aggressive. He still needs to stay aggressive. He needs to duplicate what he did in this last fight. I think he gave Charlo problems, and Charlo was just not ready for it. I think that's what he needs to do again. I think if he comes in with the same gusto, the same flair, and just tries to keep that pressure on Charlo, it's going to disrupt his flow and his game plan. They talk a lot. The Charlos talk a big game plan, but I think that this is what disrupts them. If you have constant pressure and you are active, and you have to be active for all 12 rounds, you cannot take a round off. You have to be active for all 12 rounds in this fight in order to win. But if he does that, just like he did in the last fight, I think he's going to become victorious.
I think Castano fell the Canelo kind of curse, where bad judging. I think if he needs to go what Bivol did. He needs to just dominate the entire fight. So there's no doubt in the mind. Filthy Rich, Charlo won the first one on the cards, and you kind of agreed with the cards on that one, which I think we had some good arguments about. What does Charlo got to do this time to win the rematch?
Well, it was a draw, wasn't it? The first fight was a draw, right?
Correct.
Or was it a draw? I'm sorry.
It was a draw, but me and Ray,
yeah, we thought Castano won, and you thought
Charlo had won. All
right, so what's he got to do?
You were okay with the draw. We all were okay with the draw.
Yeah.
So I forgot to mention the draw part. I apologize. You're right.
So look, I'm glad you drew parallels with Canelo and Bivol, because Castano reminds me a lot of, at least that fighting style was a lot like Canelo, where he just had like his guard up and he moved forward. He was a master at cutting off the ring. And I think if Charlo wants to win this fight, he's going to have to do what Bivol did and just like not even land him, but just throw multiple combos when Castano is going after him, just disrupt him. Because I think Castano is going to be moving forward. What does Charlo have to do? I guess it's not about getting away, but make sure you're landing your punches. Make Castano come to you and land combos all day long. I think Charlo has the power. I think he could knock Castano out, but Castano has some defense and he has some power too. I think this is going to be a really good fight. I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be a really good fight. Charlo just needs to do what Bivol did to Canelo, because I think this is going to be like a duplicate fight here, if that happens.
It was a really good fight the first time around. I'm excited to see how they do it the second time around. Very tough to predict here. I forgot to mention the odds on the fights on the first one. It doesn't matter when you're fighting Scott the Dick on that one, but this one is a lot closer. Castano comes in at plus 170 and Charlo's at a minus 190. So Vegas that's pretty close. That's pretty close as you can be. Let's see what the predictions. Judge, we'll start with you.
Look, Castano has to come in. I think even though I just gave, what I think Castano is going to need, whoever stays more disciplined to their game plan this time around, I think is going to win. I do remember actually Castano getting rocked a couple of times, but Charlo also didn't take advantage of a lot of the stuff that he should have. And I think that he's just, I don't know, man. Either way, I got to root for the underdog, man. I think I think Castano won the first fight. I think Castano is going to come in and win this fight. I still think it's going to be a decision, but unfortunately, I think it's going to be a split decision for Castano, not a draw.
All right, Filthy Rich. Yeah, judges got split decision for Castano. What do you think?
So, like, unlike the Canelo fight, where I have to kind of pretend where judges are going to score the fight, I think my scorecard is going to have Charlo ahead. So I'll take Charlo by my decision, which is unanimous. I'm going to score the fight for Charlo, I think, is what my scorecard would say. Now, what these other judges want to do, good for them, but I think I'm going to see the fight as a Charlo victory.
I'm going to step out on a little limb here. I think Castano learned a lot in that first fight, that it's hard to beat popularity. Charlo is a very popular fighter. It's like beating Canelo. You have to beat the referee, you have to beat the judges. I think Castano is good enough that he can knock Charlo out, and I think he will. I think he's going to knock him out. I'm going to call a knockout. I'm going to call it around 11. I'm going to call it around 11. I'm going to say that Castano was going to be up on our cards, but on the judges' cards, he was actually going to be down. He's actually going to catch him and knock him out, and Charlo's not going to be able to get up. That's what I'm going to call. I'm going to call a knockout in 11 for Castano. So I'm going to go on a little limb there. A little limsky. Not too bad, but it is what it is. Judge, your eyes opened pretty wide when I said that. You
That's
think
a
it's a little ridiculous?
That's a pretty thin branch, and I don't know if Charlo's ever been knocked down. So I don't know about that. But hey, that's your prediction, right?
That's
Not
what it's
mine,
called,
so.
going out on a limb, buddy. That's what
Why don't
we
you
all
say-
can't be perfect like Matty Bush. Where you can't always be
I thought
right.
you were
100%
perfect
of
and
the time.
undefeated.
Oh,
Surprised you didn't take Castano in one.
don't bring that up.
Well, I mean, Boots is obviously going to win in one. I mean, that's what it's going to happen. But it just depends. Let me put it this way: Boots wins when he wants to win. Let's put it that way. But Boots will win in one. That's my
I
prediction.
don't even know.
All right, that's a prediction for this week. It's not as exciting as the Canelo fight, but I think it's going to be just as good a fight, to tell you the truth. Charlo Castano fight, the first time around, was a fantastic fight. You should watch this fight again, because I think the rematch has all the makings of a even better fight. So make sure you check that out. And that is our previews for this week. So let's go ahead and move on with the show. All right, that's our show this week. Great show, boys. Filthy Rich, why don't you bring us on home?
Want to give a birthday shout out to my boy Michael, who the guy who moved out to Austria to be an English teacher. I think I got it wrong last time, but I got it right this time. Michael, I'll drink to you. Want to give a shout out to another one of my boys, Ian, who's starting a new adventure out in Washington. Good luck to you. I think you're both subscribers. Hopefully, I'll drink to both of you.
Filthy Rich, it's not the After Dark show. Why are you getting undressed here while you're
It's my new thing, Raider Live. Don't disrupt.
That's your new thing, is getting undressed?
Hey,
Yep. It's the end of the show, man. It's time to relax.
Maybe one day you'll show the fans your piercings.
Nope.
Oh boy.
That's a reason to sign on to the YouTube subscribe. Maybe you'll see those one day. Judge, if they're watching us, where can they listen to us on the road? And they're listening to us, they go, what is it? What is going on with this? And they want to know what the piercings are about. Where can they watch us?
Oh, if you're watching us and just want to listen to us instead of watching this stuff, just go to any major podcast site, type in Bruce and Boxing. If you're listening to us and go, man, I really need to get some context to what these guys are talking about, you need to check us out on YouTube and go to YouTube/Bruce and Boxing. Click like and subscribe, man. We really appreciate it.
As you can see, there was no Matty Bush this week, so I'm going to have to take over the words of wisdom. And my words of wisdom is, hey, people, wash your hands. Then you're not sick, and you can make your boxing show each week if you're not sick. Wash your hands at all times. And that's good advice for anywhere you go, right? Yeah, agree? Yeah, that's words of wisdom right there. That's straight from Raider Live. All right, for Judge Jimmy James and Filthy Rich and the absent Matty Bush, I am Raider Live. Thank you all for joining us for this awesome, great Canelo show. And we will see you guys next week.